Chico, come on now. He's holding the deer. Well. Good evening, everybody. Happy Friday. Lucky 8 number date. And good show we had the first one, but I got a copyright. I can't believe how many copyrights I'm getting. Luckily, it's not a strike. Evening, our eyes. You're the first one in chat. I don't know where everybody's at. Did you listen to the first show? Yeah, we have another good one. I got another good one tonight. Um, Tonight I got a lot of shorts, a couple 10-minute ones, and then Nick Shirley just came out with one just like an hour ago. That's a half hour. Then I got a 20-minute one I want to play too. I might play that after my first two I play. Actually, the second one I'm gonna play this one. Those two first. But yeah, we'll play the first five short ones, and then the 210, and then the 20. Just getting everything all set up here. I'm going to start right at 7 o'clock. So we got a few minutes here. I don't know where everybody's at. Oh, and the fun one lady on YouTube has a good one also. We got to play. News Sports had it on their channel. Where's everybody at? Well, I guess I'll play a 10-minute one first. Wait for the good ones I played till we get people in here. I'm going to go ahead and start. Entertainment purposes and opinions only. YouTube.
No offense, guys, but boomers, y'all believe everything that's on the news. Y'all, none of y'all think critically about any damn thing at all. Listen, this whole cruise ship thing with the hantavirus, and oh my God, they're trapped on the cruise ship and they're all going to die and everything. Okay, I saw, what's his name? Anthony Conservant, what, Conservative Ant, whatever his name is. He, that's it. He took the words right out of my mouth. Where are all the videos? In this day and age, you mean to tell me that the people on the cruise ship are not posting videos at all, at all, at all? And don't say they don't have any cell signal. That's absolute horseshit. I've been on cruise. Come on. There's one British guy, one who's like not really great at the body language. If you know, you know. Y'all, here's my thing. If this, which I'm already like, of course this is happening. Yeah, because you got to force everybody to stay home, right? If like there's going to be gas rationing and all this stuff because of war and whatever the hell else is going on, or whatever. It's we always know there's whatever the psyop is that's run by the 0.001%
Interesting
of the
video
freaking
here, I
world.
think.
Okay, don't want you and I to think critically, to be free, to be united in our thought, because that threatens power. Okay, we're all awake to everything, and who owns all the banks that control all the stuff for the same people who really want this whole thing in Iran, and then want to take over everything else and whatever. And no, I'm not talking about Semitic people. That is not what I'm talking about at all. I'm talking about the people who hide behind stuff. And you can't criticize anything about certain families and the name because they're hiding behind that. There ain't nothing religious about these people. Anyway, so my point is that if I see one of y'all out there freaking out like y'all did in COVID and losing your mind,
There you
because
go,
some of you
Arlo.
guys, and I
I'm
hope
all
that my
set.
video comes across your
I'm
page,
on.
because some of y'all I knew for a long time and y'all acted so stupid for a video that had for a virus that had a 99.8% recovery rate, and y'all didn't get the jab, never got COVID. Right here, worked at 2 hospitals until I didn't.
It's just 10 minutes, and I'm going to do the next
Yeah,
10
so
or 5 shorts with the 3 with the lady.
whatever, dude. Don't fall for it this time, people. Please don't get the logoed shirts like safer at home. Mask up. I saw people in Kroger in Texas tonight wearing masks. What is wrong? It's mentally ill. It's mental illness.
Pretty good.
It's mental illness to live like that, in that kind of fear, and also to not bother to know anything about that mask that you have on your face, or the fact that you are taking in more CO2 than fresh air. And what does that do to you? That's why some of y'all are so confused. You look unwell, okay? Let's go ahead and breathe in some fresh air, okay? I know. Yeah, that social anxiety, right? Okay, walk it out. Walk it out. Walk it out. You got to share the earth with people.
Hey,
Walk
Carol.
it out.
Breathe in.
I'm done. I'm done with the fear mongering and then aliens is demons.
I know. This lady's kind of funny.
Things can only be one thing or the other. So stupid. It is a multifaceted planet. Look at all the species of just bugs. Look at how many billions and trillions of species of bugs there are. That's not counting reptiles. That's not counting mammals, birds. Look at the plant life. Look at us. But when it comes to anything that is above your dumb head, it's either a demon or it's Jesus. All of which is real. I'm not saying that that's not real. That is real. But my God, do you not understand when you look at one little tiny fraction of space, when you're looking just like at a patch of the stars you can see, that
4
little
minutes,
patch
guys.
has millions of galaxies in it? Galaxies, not just, do you understand? In a little tiny patch. But we're the height of everything. It's just us, guys. Yep. This is as far as it got, and the buck stopped. Uh-huh. Well, there's not oxygen. You're assuming that other created things from God needed to breathe oxygen. What if that species doesn't breathe oxygen? What if they're entirely different? What if they're plasma, made of plasma instead of flesh? I mean, And the fact is that we have had technology reverse engineered. I know. I have family members in black projects. I know. We have had technology that was reverse engineered for the last 65 years. Okay? That I personally know of. Okay? It's as far back as I could trace paperwork. But you could go to during the time of the Civil War and the great airship mystery that was going on. Or what about here in Texas, in Aurora, Texas, in the late 1800s? where, there was no sci-fi movies, but my gosh, they have a tombstone out there where the Christians in the town buried a little guy, they called him, gave him a Christian burial because he crashed in his airship there. 1800s, the headstone's there. Just look it up, okay? This is not a news story, guys, okay? And why y'all need the President of the United States to tell you something's true or false is beyond me. Look up! You see the name of my page? It says Look Up Stupid. Because at any given time, if you just stop going blah, 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 and look up and just watch the sky for just 30 minutes. Just really focus in. I'm not saying the whole sky, just one spot. I promise you, you will see something that you can't explain. I have my whole life. And yes, angels are real. And yes, archangels are real. And seraphim and all of that. All of that's real. Demons are real. But there's also other things that are real too. And if they, my God, can traverse the entire universe, it looks to me like if they were a threat, we wouldn't be here. I think that the only threat that really exists on this planet is us. I think human beings have displayed more demonic behavior than anything I've ever heard about in an encounter of the fifth kind with an extraterrestrial. My God, I could sit here and regale you with stories that would blow your mind. And from angelic experiences, near-death experience, plasma beings that you might call extraterrestrial. I'm here. It enhanced my life. It made me closer to God. So all this fear about, this virus and this virus, guys, there's more of us than them. Please do not fall for it this time. I am begging you. If you see this video, don't fall for the fear. Please stop yourself from it. Stop. Okay? Stop.
How was that one, you guys? That's a good one, I thought. Yeah, finally I got a copyright again. So I did everything I was supposed to do, and still, I don't know. We had a good show there in the first one. Kay must be lurking. Oh no, I haven't heard from her today. So we're gonna do the short clips. We got our three on the one of our favorites.
Women are so damn nasty.
Uh-oh.
You think men are nasty? You think men miss the toilet and that makes them nasty? How many men have been in a woman's bathroom? And let me tell you something. If y'all all want to argue with me and tell me I'm not right, go ask a janitor. Go ask anybody that works in any store that cleans both toilets, both bathrooms, and ask them which bathroom is the dirtiest. Because I'm going to tell you what just happened. So I'm out here working in rain, okay, with a hole in my damn shoe. So my left shoe, I'm just sloshing around with my damn foot soaking wet. I'm already in a bad pissy mood because I have to work 23 and a half fucking hours a day to live, and neglecting everything and everybody and myself. So I'm in a bad mood. I've already had a damn breakdown 3 times this morning already. So I go in the bathroom. I got to piss. I go to the Walmart bathroom. I go in there. I got to unroll. I got a scratch and claw at the damn toilet roll that's stuck up into that machine that I don't know how tight it's woven, but I'm sitting there clawing and scratching like damn Freddy Krueger trying to get a scrap of toilet paper so I could set it on the toilet seat because I can't squat. So finally, after 17 business days, I get enough toilet paper that I could sit on the toilet. And I sit down, and when I look up, there's like piss piss on the inside of the door stall. Okay, how is that even possible? How do you piss? Are you thrusting yourself while you're pissing? Are you standing up and pissing in the opposite direction? So I'm sitting there looking at this shit. It's so disgusting. The floor is disgusting. Everything's disgusting. There's a rampon that somebody decided to just sling, and it's just laying over there on the side by the bottom of the toilet. Real pleasant looking, by the way. Somebody looks like they probably need to go have themselves checked. And I'm just sitting there like, I'm already in a rage. I'm already trying not to cry at the damn Walmart pissy ass bathroom. The lady comes and sits down beside me. It takes me a little bit to pee sometimes because I don't know why. It just does. Anyway, she sits down. All of a sudden, piss, human woman piss starts splattering by my feet. Splattering. And I said, hey, what's going on? I moved my foot because it's just like, you know how you don't. But anyway, I guess if you piss and it splatters up. And the lady goes, oh, sorry, my bad. I don't squat very well. You don't squat at all. Because how do you miss the toilet to the point where it's a full flow splattering on the concrete floor? I'm going to tell you something. Women are the nastiest. I have been in a Walmart bathroom before. In the last month, somebody went in and finger painted with their own shit all over the wall in one of the Walmarts that I work out of. It was all over the side of the wall. And it was a human big handprint. It wasn't no child's handprint. Rolled around in it, basically. I went in there before the whole toilet paper.
This is a wild one she has tonight, all you guys.
What the fuck were you doing? How would you tear off the toilet paper dispenser unless you were putting your 500-pound weight on it to get off the toilet or to get on the toilet or standing on it? I don't know. But I'm going to tell you something, guys. It is disgusting. The things that women leave behind, they will clog the toilet up. They will crap and leave the crap. And we think men are bad. Women just won't admit it. But this is disgusting and vile. And anybody that goes in there and paints and shit, I'm sorry, you need to be marched out in front of 12 men and they all locked and loaded. That's how I feel about it. I'm in a bad damn mood today.
Wow, that was a wild one.
And I have just started work in the rain. So look, I want to talk to you guys super quick about Iran, what is happening over there. As you notice, they're not following what they've been told to do. They're already having exchanging fire. How long have you guys been following me? The ones that have been following me for a while, what have I said? I'm nobody. I don't know anything, but I'm telling you right now, there will not be a surrender. I've said this. I've said it since it started. They are not going to surrender. This is how strong the Islamic regime is. This is not Iran. This is the religion. They have nothing to lose. In fact, they want to be unalive because if they're unalive, they think that somehow, somewhere, their God is going to pluck 74 virgins out of thin air. I want you to concentrate on the whole virgin thing for a minute. How many grown-ass women do you know that are virgins? Think about this for a minute. Okay, you know how the Islamic religion is with young girls and young boys. They're not saying that there has to be women virgins. They want virgins. You know, it makes you really sick to the stomach when you think about what these people are about. Have you seen what's been going on in Afghanistan? Do you know that the women over there are nearly completely covered up with nothing but eye holes? It's like a little screen. They're not allowed to drive. They're not allowed to speak in public. They're not allowed to sing. They're not allowed to do anything. Afghanistan has, I didn't know it was going on so bad until I saw something about it. Remember this, Islamic extremists, Islam. This is how dedicated they are to their religion. They don't give a shit if they are unalived. They don't give a shit about their own people, and they sure as hell don't give a shit about us. This is going to escalate. I don't think it's going to end well, and just know that they're not going to surrender, guys. It's not going to happen, and they're here, and they got that same strong faith that they got over there. They got it over here. Good afternoon, everybody. How is everybody?
Okay, I got one more. She had one out late last night. Came out late. Well, this will be the last one.
You seen what Mark Hamill, aka Luke
Or did we play
Skywalker,
this one?
has put out? He put out this picture of President Trump.
No, I don't think we played this one.
Now, he and Obama are very good friends and hang out together. And Obama has not come out and said anything negative
Everything
about
okay?
what this man just put out. We have attempt after attempt on our president's life, and now we have a washed up actor putting this kind of shit out in the public for more people, for more deranged people to get ideas. There needs to be a change in America about stuff like this. Freedom of speech should not include hoping, praying, and instigating people to unalive the president. Something has got to give. People are not facing any consequences for this. This is why it keeps happening. This is why there keeps being assassination attempts. I bet you if you were on the left and this was us doing this shit to y'all's president, if it was us doing this, y'all would be changing laws. Y'all would make sure we were in jail. But no, none of this stuff is happening. And by the way, a little extra tidbit for you. Remember the viral video of the black guy that was wrestling another guy that was trying to get in his white car, and the damn family members started piling out of the car as hard as they could, like one after the other, and you couldn't really figure out what the hell was going on, but it said a father shot a would-be hijacker that was trying to take his car with his damn family in the backseat. Guess who the hijacker was? Guess. And illegal. Well, he F-A'd and F-O'd. And I think that's what's probably going to start happening here before long. People are going to start getting sick of this shit and taking matters in their own hands. Speaking of Mark Hamill, this motherfucker needs to go to jail.
Okay, got 3 of hers tonight. But yeah, Auntie, we had Mel and Holly on one video, and then we did Mel's intel thing on the hour today. Had a good show this afternoon. Okay, let's do.
Friday, May 8th, 2026. Hello, I'm John Michael Chambers, and this is your War Report.
About 8 minutes.
I ask you to listen with love, as where we go one, we go all. The following report is provided in part by Guardian, Daniel R. Global scripted show is
Yeah, but
collapsing
she's
right
funny
now.
most of the time.
It was never politics.
She's
It was
good.
a psyop war for your mind. The global psyop is crumbling. You've been staring at a scripted Hollywood production while the real war for your soul explodes behind the curtain. Fake leaders, staged crisis, and endless lies are falling apart as the awakening hits critical mass. This isn't left versus right. This is humanity versus the cabal's mind control machine. The masks are ripping off. The actors are panicking. And the truth is about to flood the streets like a tidal wave of justice. Patriots, you're living in the final act of the greatest deception ever pulled on mankind. For decades, the deep state shoved democracy down your throat while every election crisis and leader was pre-scripted to keep you docile and divided. But the cracks are everywhere now. Impossible glitches, blatant contradictions, and shadow ops that no longer hold up. The ones who saw it first were the tip of the spear, ahead of the massive red pill wave crashing over the planet right now. This charade was psychological warfare perfected. Operation Mockingbird turned your TV into a weapon, programming billions to fear, hate, and to obey. They fed the narrative drop by drop until you believed the lie was truth. Now the script is falling apart, and failing hard. The so-called inauguration events, total studio productions with fake skies, impossible shadows, disappearing crowds, hands passing through the objects like cheap CGI. Yes, Castle Rock Studios doubled as the White House set. Insiders spilled it, and the math exposes the fraud every time. Trump said it. They're straight out of central casting. He wasn't joking. Many politicians, experts, and crisis actors are paid. They're paid stand-ins reading lines. Multiple body doubles, changing earlobes, robotic voices. The real ones aren't even on the stage. Refuse the script? Gitmo for traitors. The rest are sweating, knowing their time is now up. Thank you, Derek Johnson, for focusing on Executive Orders 13818 and 13848, which gave the military power to seize assets, prosecute enemies, and commandeer the lying media. The battlefield is your screen, your mind. And Q said, you cannot tell the people the truth, you must show them. Dumping full truth too fast would have shattered minds and sparked chaos. So they ran the controlled movie, slow exposure, staged contradictions, escalating red pills to guide the masses to a furious awakening. This is global. Celebrities, anchors, world quote leaders, clones and doubles, well, they are everywhere. The distraction clown show hid the military sting, dismantling the cabal. Now the population is primed, glitches undeniable, curtain on fire. The fake script collapses under its lies, and nothing stops the truth's flood anymore. This is the final battle for humanity's soul, with information, perception, and unbreakable will. Stop laughing at the theories. This is the real takedown of a centuries-old satanic controlled grid. The movie ends, the actors flee. You, yes, you are the hero. Choose now, stand with awakened patriots, ripping off blindfolds, or cling to the dying illusion. Storm is here, glorious and unstoppable. The deep state's nightmare is billions waking up. They can't script their way out. The show is ending, folks, and victory is ours. Join me and Juan Savin live for the Patriot Q&A Power Hour in our private Zoom room, May 28th at 8 p.m. Eastern. We'll be taking your questions. Get your questions answered. I shall be your host, and Juan is the power guest. Learn about...
All right, that was all there was on that. So, Flying Eagle, this one's going to be 20 minutes on that straight to the point lady. Interviewed somebody. Not sure how well this will go. God dang it.
Admissible evidence, but not
allegations of a treasonous conspiracy to undermine the results of the 2016 presidential election. Your questions answered, the declassified records decoded, and why the Florida federal courts may be the battleground. So let's get straight to the point. Is the grand conspiracy case about hobbling a sitting president of the United States?
Well, timing wise, it certainly suggests that to me. An outgoing president manufacturing intelligence information with the help of a CIA director. If that's all true, that seems directed towards fueling what became kind of frivolous impeachments from my perspective.
What is the legal theory behind the grand conspiracy, and is it viable in the federal courts?
I think there's a good chance that you're talking about a deprivation of civil rights under 18 U.S. Code 242. Ironically, perhaps, you could argue that there's a conspiracy to defraud the United States, which was a lead charge that Jack Smith used for January 6th.
Let's talk about the Florida case. This is the investigation involving the former CIA director, John Brennan. Do you believe John Brennan gets indicted?
It certainly feels like it's heading that way. What I think about with Brennan is, and same with some other people we'll talk about, like Mr. Comey, there's an incredible amount of room for moral blame. I do think the transparency for what was happening in terms of the Obama administration and Brennan and Comey, there's a lot of people that deserve a lot of scrutiny for what they did. Whether that hangs together as a criminal prosecution is really an entirely different question, particularly when you're talking about something 9 or 10 years ago. And in conspiracy cases, there is room for that. But it's not going to be just substantively what happened in 2016 or 17 without, serious procedural questions.
You've described the Florida
This okay, you
investigations
guys?
and potential prosecutions as the mothership. What do you mean that Florida is the mothership?
Well, my impression is that whatever's coming out of Florida, if there's an indictment, is going to be the broadest indictment in terms of covering timeframes, covering people and officials, and perhaps different charges. It's going to be more about election interference conducted by people at the highest reaches of government. So that would certainly be a much more impactful, much more historic prosecution if that comes out.
If charges are brought, do you anticipate it will include this 18 U.S.C. 242, which is deprivation of rights under color of law?
Yeah, best guess is yes. There could be some sort of honest services fraud angle that they try to pursue as well. But I think that the most likely hook there is that 242.
For a layperson, what is 18 U.S.C. 242?
Well, it takes willful, intentional conduct by someone that's designed to take away constitutionally protected rights of another person. What's interesting here is you could couch that in terms of President Trump's right to kind of run unopposed or not face scurrilous impeachments, or you could view it as the voters as a victim of the conduct. A lot of the 242 cases you see involve law enforcement. These are like abusive force cases by the police where they have an obligation to, act within certain constitutional boundaries, and they go out and they do something that is beyond the pale in terms of, violence or abuse or illegal searches, things of that nature. So you have to identify the constitutional right that's at play. Maybe it's the right to a fair election. And then you have to decide, who's the victim that you're alleging in these circumstances.
So let's drill down a little further in the Brennan case. As background, in 2017, there was an intelligence assessment that created this public narrative that President Trump was a puppet of Russia. Brennan allegedly lied to Congress about the fact that this Steele dossier, which was Democrat-funded opposition research, was part of the intelligence report. Based on the criminal statutes, would that be sufficient to show an abuse of authority?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, this is a little bit new territory, but I do think it probably has that color of law component to let that happen. You've got a situation, and the willfulness is going to be important here. He insisted in putting it in. At least that's the allegation. That's a pretty important moment showing that he knows what he's doing, that he's politicized, and he's acting on those political beliefs.
In my view, probably a critical witness is the former NSA director, Admiral Rogers. He was one of the intelligence chiefs who really pushed back against the Russia collusion allegations. When he left government, has kind of gone into the background. Very high reputation, very credible. That's the kind of witness, to me, that could be very, very damaging for Brennan.
Yeah, you'd certainly want somebody with that kind of, those bona fides, somebody who's kind of conducting themselves in a way that tells you they're kind of pro-law enforcement, not pro-politics.
How does the Justice Department get around a statute of limitations when the intelligence report was in 2017?
Well, starting with conspiracy. If you have a conspiracy charge, then you can use overt acts and furtherance of that conspiracy that post-date the main object. In other words, obstructionist moments later can be used to restart the statute of limitations, which is typically going to be like 5 years at the most. And it could be in this case that what they're relying on are false statements. If you've given false statements to Congress, if you've given false statements on the media, that may well be the hook they're running with. But we don't know. I mean, there could be, completely different rabbit holes that they ran down that help survive the statute of limitations beyond that.
The Equinox is the crossover SUV that can run in the family. Right now, you can get this 2026 Equinox LT for $279 a month or For GM employees with an eligible lease, pay $249 a month. Chevy Detroit. Together, let's drive.
Brennan was a paid national security analyst for NBC News. Is it possible that every time Brennan went on television, that he
15 minutes
was
still
restarting
on
the
this
clock,
interview.
sort of a furtherance of the conspiracy?
Essentially, yes. Not every time he's talking about anything, but if he's literally talking about the conduct back in 2016, 17, if he's denying kind of tipping the scales against President Trump by getting this intelligence report out, that could work. It's going to be the subject of pretrial litigation. I mean, there's going to be motions to dismiss if you're being somewhat creative with restarting the clock on statute of limitations. But generally speaking, obstructionist behavior, conspiracy, conduct designed to keep that thing secret and successful is the type of thing that helps you avoid the statute of limitations.
Brennan, like so many of these other former senior national security officials, wrote a book. How much does the book, in his own words, come back to haunt him in a prosecution?
And that's the common thread through so many of these cases that deal with like classified information or politicized behavior. So, boy, the hubris of wanting to get a bestseller tends to trip up people a lot. It may not be something where the book has confessions, right? These are going to be pretty self-serving books, but there could be what they call false exculpatories, like things where he's clearly lying. You can prove that he's lying about something. And then you argue to a judge or jury someday that, people lie for a reason, and it's because he knew he did something wrong.
Brennan has said that this is politically motivated and that it is a selective prosecution. Will he have a strong legal argument?
Yeah. Well, it depends on a couple of things. I mean, the starting point is, what does the indictment actually look like? My perspective from living with representing President Trump in 22 and 23 and seeing what was happening with Jack Smith, Alvin Bragg, Letitia James, Fonnie Willis, as somebody who's been around criminal justice, when you see something that's innovative, to a fault, creative, creating crimes that nobody else has been prosecuted for, that's a red flag. That's alarming. Selectivity and vindictive prosecution are tough things to prove for the defense. Selective prosecution under the case law basically means similarly situated people weren't treated the way you were. In other words, similarly situated people were not prosecuted for this kind of conduct. And starting point is, how do you find a parallel?
Yeah, there's one
where do you
here
find
out
a CIA director who orchestrated reports for intelligence distribution and to spur impeachment and kind of the hobbling of a presidency? I don't think you're going to find a clean, selective moment by way of parallels.
We're seeing all of these indictments now. Attorney General Pam Bondi is out. There's a new acting Attorney General, Todd Blanche. Does that suggest that Bondi was holding up the process?
Not to me. Particularly white-collar cases are slow boils. When I was a supervisor in the U.S. Attorney's Office, it was always my white-collar prosecutors that said, Jim, we've got to charge this by Tuesday because the statute of limitations is going to run. And I'm like, it's been 4 years. What's going on? And so I think that these types of cases, there's a lot of dotting of I's and crossing of T's. It takes a long time. And so I don't view that as something that would have ever started up overnight. It's the reactive crimes. It's the murder on the streets where you have to move quickly that are more reactive. These are not reactive crimes.
So just connecting the dots here, we have Florida, and now we have North Carolina. The former FBI Director James Comey was recently indicted, 2 counts for allegedly issuing a threat against the President of the United States when he posted the 8647 seashells on Instagram. 86 is kind of to harm somebody, and then 47 is the 47th President of the United States. The first count is for willfully making a threat against the president, and then the second is for the transmission of that threat on Instagram. Does the Comey case withstand First Amendment challenges?
Probably. What happens in threats cases is you have to have a subjective proof that establishes that there's an actual intent to threaten the target. Anything short of that is First Amendment protected. So it's kind of a redundant process to talk about it as a First Amendment case. You're either making a threat or you're not. If you're not, it's First Amendment conduct. But it's going to be difficult for any sort of pretrial motion to win the day on that issue because it's a typical kind of factual determination for a jury.
Is there a Supreme Court precedent that addresses cases like Comey?
Yeah, there is. I mean, about 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, the Supreme Court finally weighed in on something called the true threats doctrine. And the issue is just simply, do you use an objective standard? Do you just say, would a victim objectively take this as a threat to themselves? Or subjective, meaning when the person issued this threat by way of seashells or other ways, that they intended it to be received as a threat. That's a narrower, more difficult thing for the prosecution to prove. I know Todd Blanche has made comments about we have other evidence. That's going to be important because you certainly don't have, Mr. Comey publicly confessing, yeah, I was trying to threaten him.
There's a section in the indictment called
Scaring the deer
forfeiture
off,
notice,
guys.
and it
Ones
says
scared
that
off.
if there's a conviction, that the defendant will lose property. Are they talking about Comey's book sales? The seashells were posted as he was preparing to launch his latest crime novel.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't think it's the seashells themselves being forfeited. So you're probably looking at something where you could tie. I mean, you do have to tie in forfeiture to criminal conduct. So maybe it was promotional to make that kind of threat on Instagram and to kind of celebrate your snarkiness that way. So that's what I would guess is they're making a run at the book. It's not going to be broader than that, but that could certainly be a big bite.
The acting attorney general, Todd Blanche, recently said that there's more to the indictment than just the 8647 seashells. What does that say to
12
you?
minutes left.
Well, it tells me number one, he knows
Then
it's
we'll
a
do
tough
about
case on
10
its face.
shorts.
When you're talking about subjective intent
And
to
Nick
threaten
Shirley
versus kind of
half-hour video.
snarky, hateful comments. And there's plenty of room for moral condemnation. Don't take any of this as me supporting the actions of Comey. But I think he's probably talking about communications with third parties. Maybe they've got text threads or emails where Comey kind of betrayed the story a little bit. Well, I actually did know what 86 means, or even just animus towards President Trump around that time frame. I can't stand that guy. How could he fire me? All of that could be helpful evidence to show a subjective intent to threaten.
And the idea that he just stumbled across these seashells on the beach that spelled out 8647.
Yeah, I mean, look, I wish you could fingerprint seashells. I think I know whose would show up. But I think that was really kind of that height of hubris snark, knowing that he's not telling the truth, but thinking it's kind of cute to phrase it that way. If he betrayed that lie to other people, that would be a nice little piece of evidence to put in.
I was too ashamed to talk to people and be around people because of the movements. They were so embarrassing.
Do you anticipate there will be a superseding indictment in the Comey case? And would that charge likely be a violation of 18 U.S.C. 1001, the false statements statute?
If he made false statements to Secret Service, they could certainly weave that into a superseding indictment, adding a 1001. Not a bad fallback if there's issues with the free speech, the subjective intent on the lead counts. So it could be. I think 1001 has been so overused by prosecutors in recent years. It's kind of a substitute for actual evidence. I'd almost rather they say, we're going to go all in on these threats. And if we have lies, we'll use that. We can still make that admissible evidence, but not necessarily charge a 1001.
There's another investigation that's running in the Eastern District of Virginia. Bloomberg Law was first to report that prosecutors are looking at possible charges against Comey for the sharing of government records. And the name that's come up again is Daniel Rickman. What should people know about Daniel Rickman?
Well, that he was a longtime colleague of Comey. They were AUSAs together in Southern District of New York. And Comey brought him in for, I think, just the most reprehensible purpose. He brought this man in to be his liaison to the New York Times, gave him top secret and SCI clearance, the highest levels of clearance. So he had access to classified information. And what Comey did with this guy was have him lobby the newspaper for good treatment of Jim Comey. It wasn't even for the institution, wasn't even for the FBI, which I still think would be very bad. But he literally had a guy designed to comfortably leak information to the New York Times that would help Jim Comey's reputation. And to me, that's one of the most devastating components of his reign as the director.
So there are these declassified records called Arctic Haze, which is 2017 investigated media leaks that related to then FBI Director James Comey. And there are two events. The first involved the leaking of classified information that related to the Clinton email investigation. The intelligence was not verified, but it suggested that then Attorney General Loretta Lynch was somehow compromised. And this is why Comey said he went around her and announced that no reasonable prosecutor would go after Hillary Clinton for the mishandling of classified information. In Arctic Haze, Daniel Rickman discusses a meeting and a conversation he had with the New York Times. And Rickman says, I don't think I confirmed to the reporter the classified information, but I'm saying this with a discount. What does with a discount mean?
Well, he's the only one that knows. I mean, I suppose he's saying there was some caveat, like, I may be shading the truth here. Usually when you come to false statement, perjury prosecutions, convenient memory loss doesn't work. And so if it's obvious that this is just kind of a convenient moment of, you got to discount that, meaning don't prosecute me for lying, that will be a problem for him. But, those are still uphill cases, tough cases when they say things like that.
I mean, this looks like clever lawyer speak. Like, don't go after me for a false statement.
Yeah, it's a cry for help, for sure. He's saying, this is probably a whopper, don't prosecute me, but I'm going to say it. I mean, that's almost the parenthetical of the whole thing.
The second incident involved these Comey memos. When Jim Comey was FBI director, he documented about a half dozen conversations he had with President Trump about the Russia collusion investigation and some pretty salacious allegations that were in this dossier. Many of those memos, according to the Inspector General, they contain classified information. So could that be another area of legal exposure?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, and the starting point again is I like to back off from the law for a second and just talk about kind of the ethics or morality or mentality. You've got a guy going in to meet with his boss, the president of the United States, who feverishly takes self-serving notes after the meetings. Like, that's a bad sign in terms of loyalty and hubris and kind of narcissism. And then again, if you're the FBI director, you more than anyone are supposed to know the rules of classification and storage and dissemination. And so taking these notes on your laptop out in the car after you've ticked off President Trump and then storing it in your safe at your own house, it sounds relatively secure, but it's a violation. So, he's got classified information that he's holding in a non-secure scenario, at least as I understand it.
Does the Columbia law professor have his own legal exposure?
Yes, he has it for knowingly taking possession of this type of material, passing it on to the media if he did that. I think it's really interesting. If you read the reports, it seems like Rickman is almost saying, I wasn't the one that passed it on to the New York Times. They had it. And kind of the ... is Comey did in advance of Rickman's meeting. Again, I don't have evidence of that, but it kind of reads in a way where it's like, well, who else had a motivation to do that? And that would be his buddy from, back in the old Manhattan U.S. Attorney's Office.
When you get to the bottom line, people who are supporters of the grand conspiracy say that former President Barack Obama was the architect of the conspiracy. He got the ball rolling. The Director of National Intelligence, President Trump, have alleged that he's guilty of treason. Does anything happen to President Obama?
What I would say as a starting point is it's not, it's kind of philosophically something you can refer to as treason or politically. It's not actual treason in terms of the statute and the elements of the crime. What is it that makes sense here as a charge? It's complicated by his position as a president, as we know about immunity. But I think that when you get down to core executive functions of a president, which is kind of where this line of qualified immunity, for lack of a better phrase, is for a president in office, conducting a shadow campaign to disable somebody you don't like politically is probably not protected. So would it go up to the Supreme Court if President Obama was indicted and there was a motion to dismiss? Absolutely. But there's room. I mean, there's room for a potential prosecution there if they chase this thing down and have the communications coming down from the president that are motivated not by some sort of interest in protecting the public or dealing with law enforcement issues, but by trying specifically to hobble President Trump.
A new era of American shipbuilding is here.
All of this is unfolding as we approach the midterm elections, and then there are only 2 years left on the clock. Are all of these defendants or potential defendants trying to run out the clock?
They should. I mean, look, if you're a lawyer on a case like that, you're representing one of these guys, you kind of make the conclusion that time is somewhat on your side. And what I'm going to watch carefully is kind of how DOJ conducts itself when it comes to the clock, when there's indictments and when the judge is saying, when are we going to try this case? I remember watching this whole thing with Judge Chutkan and Jack Smith in D.C. Jack Smith stood there and said, we need to hurry up and try this in the next 3 or 4 months for this dubious right to a public trial, or right to a speedy trial for the public. If we see that kind of behavior, I'm going to be a little disappointed. But if they say what I think Jack Smith and company should have said, which is, Judge, you tell us we're not here for politics. We're here because we're actual prosecutors. We're going to be open file on discovery. We're going to share everything, be transparent, because it's an important matter. I'd like to see that attitude in whatever happens with these political figures. I'd like to see DOJ say, hey, we're not here for politics. We'll do it when we have to do it. And if that stretches a case beyond the midterm or a couple of years, then so be it. That would be good to see. But you're right. There's an expectation after the Trump administration, if it's not a Republican in office, that we're going to see a lot of immediate meddling with any outstanding cases.
Well, this issue, the grand conspiracy, whether you feel it's a legitimate allegation or not, is extremely important to President Trump's base. And it's now been a decade since some of the alleged violations occurred. Is it too late for justice?
Well, hopefully not. I mean, and that doesn't even mean necessarily that there's a whole bunch of indictments. I mean, I stick to kind of two components to this. One is if they can legitimately show ongoing conduct in support of the conspiracy, then so be it. They avoid the statute of limitations, and the base can be happy when they see some big names under legitimate indictment. That day may well come. But at the very least, we shouldn't just wed every bit of moral condemnation to convictions. I think there's incredible criticism that's fair game for Obama, for Brennan, for Lynch, for Comey, for Brennan, for people, all the way down to Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, all these different people that were politicized, that were using important law enforcement or governmental positions to get political results that they felt very self-righteous about. I would hope that over time, history looks back and says there was outrageous misconduct by these people, whether they're indicted or not.
It's hard to...
Okay, I thought that was a good interview. All right, time for a bunch of short ones. And then we'll play the 20 or 15-minute YouTube lady that was important on News Force. She must have had a good one. And then we'll play Nick's video.
Talking about the weather, Tom Homan and Kathy Hochul are officially in a political street fight over immigration enforcement in the biggest city in America. And neither side is backing down an inch.
So, of course, we're going to increase manpower a lot. They're not going to stop us. They can put all the roadblocks they want, but we're going to do this job.
Now they're going to backtrack on that as a threat to me, trying to threaten the governor of the state of New York. And I don't take well to threats. They're going to find that out.
Oh, settle down, Kathy. Doing your job isn't a threat. It's called the Constitution. But Governor Hochul's already opening up your wallets, New York, to fight for people who shouldn't even be there. Plus, out in Los Angeles, the mayoral debate turned into a total boil when reality TV star Spencer Pratt put the Democratic candidates on blast. And let's just say the moderators weren't fans of the truth.
She's an incredible liar.
I have to interrupt you. No name calling,
She just
please.
lied, though.
Yeah, but no name calling.
Ah, yes. The golden rule of liberal media. You can't call a Democrat a liar, but you can call a Republican a fascist, a Nazi, or racist before breakfast. Unbelievable. Plus, Ken Griffin, the hedge fund billionaire who actually pays the bills in New York, reveals if he's finally done with the Big Apple after the socialist mayor Zohran Mamdani tried to make him a public enemy. Hit that like button if you think the U-Hauls to Florida and Texas should keep on rolling. Hype it up and subscribe if you're new. Let's begin with Tom Homan threatening to flood New York with ICE agents if the radicals in Albany pass these new sanctuary laws. But Governor Kathy Hochul, she says, like it or not, it's happening.
States like New York can and must be a guardrail against ICE overreach. ICE will no longer be able to use our police, our jails, and our resources to carry out civil immigration enforcement. Because guess what? Our officers, paid for by local taxpayer dollars, were hired to protect their communities, to be there to assist with a traffic accident, to go after retail theft, stop domestic violence. They're not there to do the federal government's bidding.
A guardrail? That's liberal speak for a get-out-of-jail-free card. The border czar says he doesn't need the governor's permission to do his job. In fact, he sounds like a guy who already packed the bus and started the engine.
Well, Governor Hochul, I'm not asking either. I said it, we're going to do it. You know, she wants to sign legislation. She supports this legislation it's going to lock us out of jail.
Let's go through what Democrats are actually trying to slip into this legislation. This year's budget includes new sanctuary-style laws that would block local cops from talking to ICE on civil cases, you know, like being in the country illegally. It protects your status from being shared. It actually allows lawsuits against federal agents, and it bans those agents from wearing masks. And who does this actually protect? Not law-abiding New Yorkers. Since April, we've seen cases tied to illegal immigrants, including a deadly apartment fire in New York City, the kidnapping of a 4-year-old child, and the subway shoving death of an 83-year-old veteran just trying to get home. These are the kinds of criminals Democrats keep bending over backwards to shield. And their refusal to fully cooperate with ICE doesn't just make enforcement harder. It drags out the process and creates more chaos for everybody involved, including the migrants themselves who end up caught in the middle of all of it.
She says she wants to protect the migrant communities. Really? Because now we arrest an illegal alien. We can't rent a bed from any of the sheriffs in New York State. So what are we going to do? We're going to arrest that illegal alien. We're going to fly them to Texas, Arizona, to one of the detention facilities there, away from their families, away from their attorneys. This is what we have to do because she forces us in this position. And we're going to do it. They're not going to stop us. They can put all the roadblocks they want, but we're going to do this job.
Kathy Hochul thinks that she's being a guardrail, but she's really just a travel agent who is going to force the relocation of these migrants. And now we're hearing the next step in the Democratic agenda isn't just sanctuary policies. It's expanding political participation to non-citizens in local decision-making.
So there's an LA council member. He wants voters to decide. He is saying that non-citizens, should they be allowed to vote in local elections? Is this a yes or no? Mr. Pratt?
No.
Mayor Bass?
It depends. It's not a yes or no.
Depends on what?
Well, first of all, when you say non-citizens, it doesn't mean they're here illegal. It doesn't mean they're undocumented. They could have green cards. They could be here perfectly legal. And there's a lot of states and cities that do that on very, very local elections. We have to see what the councilman is proposing.
Councilmember Bremen.
Yeah, I would say, again, it does depend.
Wait a second. Since when did not a citizen become close enough? A green card means you're welcome here. It doesn't mean, though, that you're running the place. You don't invite somebody over for dinner and then hand them the remote, the mortgage, and the HOA votes. But this is always how the left rolls this stuff out. First, it's relax. It's only school boards. Then it's calm down. It's just city council races. And next thing you know, the guy who just jumped the fence yesterday is helping decide how much you pay in taxes while you're sitting bumper to bumper on the 405. And by the way, even liberal courts have looked at this and said, absolutely not.
I would just note there are localities that have tried to allow non-citizens to vote in local elections. One of those localities was New York City. The city council imposed this, and guess what? The left-wing New York High Court looked at it and threw it out 6-1. It wasn't even a close call.
They also think you...
Hey, that's part one.
Never met a government program she didn't want to put on your tab, says it's actually for your own good.
Congresswoman Porter, your thoughts on the idea of funding health care for undocumented immigrants statewide?
Yes.
Yes, and
And that's, by the way, what I think Californians deserve as answers to these questions, Alex.
And for critics who say that we can't afford it, what do you say to that?
We can't afford to have people who are sick, who are making the rest of us sick. When
Yeah, they
anyone
shouldn't be
doesn't
here.
have care, When anyone doesn't have care, the rest of us are at risk. When people don't get vaccinations, when they don't go to the doctor, they wind up in the emergency room. They cause longer lines for the rest of us. They make our healthcare system, they push it to the brink. And that was exactly where we were when we expanded healthcare and health coverage to make sure that everyone can be healthy.
So her solution to long lines is to invite the entire world to come here for free surgery. It's not rocket science, Katie. The very problem that she claims to be fighting, clogged ERs and doctor shortages, is exactly what you get when you turn the country into a free walk-in clinic. You're incentivizing the chaos and then wondering why the waiting room is full. And speaking of full, have you seen MacArthur Park in Los Angeles lately? Oh, it's supposed to be a place for families. Instead, it's an open-air drug market where MS-13 and the 18th Street Gang, they're fighting over who gets to sell poison like it's season 3 of Narcos.
I went to the historic park yesterday, just hours before the federal raid. I saw people getting high, and all around were people apparently doing what's called the fentanyl fold, when people's bodies fold in half while on fentanyl. I also saw a young man hit the ground, go unconscious. He was revived by LA homeless workers who told him he overdosed, and they left him with boxes of Narcan.
The fentanyl fold. That's the new California landscape for you, I guess. Well, wait until you see the show the feds just put on in the park the other day, and you're never going to believe what they found. Plus, Ken Griffin essentially gives Zohran Mamdani the middle finger. It's good. But before we get to those stories, I want to take a second to talk to you about something that actually matters to your wallet. If you're around retirement age, you know the drill. The Medicare machine starts coming for you, right? The mailers are piling up on the counter like a mountain of junk mail. Your phone is ringing off the hook with strangers pushing plans you've never even heard of. It's overwhelming. But that's why I partnered with Chapter to help you out. They are the only Medicare advisor that compares every plan available nationwide, not just the ones a broker gets paid to push. They look at your doctors, your prescriptions, and your priority. Then they're going to match you with a plan that actually works for you. And here's the difference. Their advisors are salaried. They're not trying to sell you a specific plan to make a buck. They're there to help you make the right decision. If you're already on the best plan, they're going to tell you that. If you're not, they'll help you switch. A call with Chapter is free, and they've helped folks save an average of $1,100 a year on their healthcare costs. So if you're turning 65 or already on Medicare, call Chapter at 833-932-1386. Again, that's 833-932-1386. And when you call that specific number, they're going to know I sent you, and I promise you, they're going to take very good care of you. Don't let the system play you. Call Chapter and get it right. All right, let's head back to LA, where the adults finally entered MacArthur Park. Federal agents moved in, cut the locks, and busted a Sinaloa cartel pipeline that was basically handing out death like it was a Halloween candy. They found 40 pounds of fentanyl in one stash house alone. That's enough to kill 190,000 people. Now, you'd think, should we keep drug-infested encampments away from schools? Would be a total layup for anyone running for mayor, right? But for an LA Democrat, it's a jump ball.
Next question. Do you support the ordinance that restricts encampments in front of schools or daycare centers? Mayor Bass, I'm going to start with you. Yes or no? Ms. Rahman, yes or no?
I support keeping our streets safe. I did vote against the structure of this particular ordinance. And it is because at its best,
It's a yes or no.
It does not, the way this ordinance was structured,
It's no. Yes or no.
it does
Yes
not
or
keep,
no.
it
We'll
does
take
not
that
keep
as a
our
no.
children safe. It does not
Mr.
keep our
Pratt,
children
sorry.
safe. No,
Mr.
it
Pratt.
doesn't keep our children safe enough.
It's a simple yes or no question. Mr. Pratt.
What I was saying is she's fighting because she doesn't think there's a difference between 1 foot or 500 feet for kids' safety with drug addicts with machetes
Again,
in
we'll
front of
take that.
schools.
Yes or no?
Of course, we do not want encampments in front of schools, parks, daycare.
Well, at least Karen Bass landed the plane, although judging by what Los Angeles already looks like, her record answered that question a long time ago before she did, and clearly contradicts her answer. But the real surprise, reality star Spencer Pratt. He stole the show last night, and let's just say the claws came out.
Councilwoman Robin acts like she doesn't have any authority with this homelessness. She was the third most powerful person in city council. She runs the homeless housing thing. All I need to do is surround myself with people who don't call in bomb threats to City Hall. The mayor's deputy mayor, when she was in Ghana, when my house was burning down, he was under house arrest because he called in a bomb threat. When animal rescue activist Rebecca Corey came in and said the dogs are being tortured and abused on the streets of Dunedin, she walked out of the hearing. She doesn't care about safety. She doesn't care about anything she's talking about. At least Mayor Bass pretends to care.
You know things are bad when the reality TV guy is the one sounding grounded in reality. And honestly, Angelenos are about to answer a very simple question. How much chaos are they willing to tolerate before they finally vote for something different?
Okay, last part with her. She had 3 good ones today.
About 4 to 6 weeks of fuel left if the war in Iran keeps up. That means by June, Californians are stranded. But when the candidates for governor were asked if they'd actually produce more oil to save the state, it got awkward.
This is the bill. Do you sign it or do you veto it? Mayor Villaraigosa.
Yes.
Congressman Porter.
Can you repeat the question?
So would you advocate for an increase in oil production in the state? Western states point of...
No,
okay, all right.
No.
All right, very good. Mr. Sheriff Bianca.
Absolutely.
Mr. Hilton.
We don't need a bill. I'll get it done directly as governor by instructing the California Department of Geologic and Energy Management to open up oil production. This is the problem with Democrats. Endless legislation instead of just getting the job done.
We're going to veto it next time. Mr. Steyer.
No.
All right. Mr. Secretary Becerra.
Versus importing? Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, we also should stop pushing all of our refining capacity out of state and importing dirtier oil from thousands of miles away. It doesn't make sense.
Gavin Newsom spent years treating oil companies like they were the villain. He banned fracking, he stopped the permits, and he basically told the industry to pack their bags and go to Texas. I mean, we have thousands of permits sitting in Kern County, permits that could literally keep your car moving and the grocery trucks running. But the candidates for governor are saying, nah, we're good. We'd rather you walk. Or better yet, they think if they leave you stranded on the side of the road long enough, you'll finally give up and buy that $60,000 electric vehicle that they've been trying to shove down your throat. They want you to walk. They want you to pay for everybody's health care. And now they want to tax you for the crime of being successful. Which brings us to New York and a very expensive reality check for one of the biggest names in finance. An update on Ken Griffin and his growing spat with Zohran Mamdani. You remember Mamdani going after Griffin and his tax the rich messaging, calling out his penthouse and painting him like the symbol of everything wrong with New York wealth. Well, Griffin isn't exactly backing down. In fact, he's basically saying, fine, keep talking. And let's see how the city runs without the people actually funding it.
So where does that leave us at 350 Park?
That leaves us with the fact that we went to Miami and revised our building plan to make it a bigger office building.
You're bailing?
So what do we do at 350 is still a point of discussion internally. But what is no longer a point of discussion is that Miami is now, you know, when we moved from Chicago, there was a debate between New York and Miami. It's unquestionably true that we made the right choice. I'll leave it at that.
You would think this would make Mamdani break a slight sweat. Maybe he could pick up the phone, dial Griffin, try to work out a deal to keep those billions in the city. But no, instead, he chose to double down when he was asked about Griffin's response.
I'll first just start by saying that I want all New Yorkers to succeed. That includes business owners and entrepreneurs who create good paying jobs, who make this city the economic engine, not just of our state, but frankly of our country. And that also includes Ken Griffin, who is a major employer in our city. That does not negate the fact, however, that our tax system is fundamentally broken.
So on one hand, we love businesses, we love entrepreneurs, we love jobs. And on the other hand, also the system they operate in is fundamentally broken and needs to be fixed, presumably with higher taxes. That's like telling someone you really love their house while simultaneously announcing you're going to change the locks and increase the rent. And Griffin, he didn't exactly sound moved.
Now what the mayor of New York has made clear to my partners, and principally my New York partners, is that we need to double down on our bet in Miami, because we want to be in a state that embraces business, that embraces education, that embraces personal freedom and liberty, and that embraces people having an opportunity to live the American dream.
It's a simple lesson that the radicals in Sacramento and New York just can't seem to learn. You can bully the people who keep the lights on all you want. You can call them villains, you can tax them, you can stand on their front lawn for a photo op. But here's the thing about the rich and the big energy companies. They have planes and they have options. And when you make it your life mission to punish the producers, they don't stay and fight. They just leave. And when the billionaires take their tax checks to Florida and the oil companies take their rigs to Texas, you're not winning. You're just sitting in the dark with a tax the rich t-shirt on. Pretty soon, California and New York are going to be real quiet and really cold. But hey, at least the system won't be broken anymore because there won't be anything left to fix.
Okay, those were 3 good ones from her tonight. This is an important one here. Off News Force.
And the fact that a giant corporation like Walmart has laid the foundation for a deceptive controlling system just like this should have us all outraged.
This one is about 13 minutes.
So simply buying a TV just doesn't seem to be enough anymore. Now your television's your login information, your shopping habits, your viewing history, your soul, your firstborn child, and probably permission to emotionally manipulate you into buying paper towels at 2 a.m. Because yes, people are absolutely losing it over Walmart-owned Vizio TVs and the claim that you now need a Walmart account to simply use the TV. And honestly, some of the panic is exaggerated, but a lot of it is very, very real. Because Walmart didn't just buy Vizio because they had this sudden passion for 4K video quality or cinematic color contrast. No, they bought Vizio because TVs are basically just colorful digital billboards with some extra HDMI ports. And once people realized that Walmart could potentially connect what you watch and what you buy and control what ads you see, the internet collectively went absolutely not. So today we're going to be diving into whether Walmart is actually forcing people to log in, what Vizio TVs are actually tracking, why privacy experts are concerned, and why your television might officially know more about you than some of your closest relatives. Because somehow we've reached a point where your TV knows that you've decided to binge watch cooking shows for the last 6 hours, and now suddenly your Walmart app seems to be recommending a lot of air fryers, ranch seasoning, and a 48-pack of paper towels. Gee, isn't the future beautiful? Now, before we dig in a little bit deeper, I want to take a look at a video that is blowing up over on TikTok right now that was uploaded by TikTok user Jimmy Rig. Now, you guys might recognize Jimmy. I have featured him on this channel before for exposing misweighed meats at Walmart and other grocery stores. Jimmy is doing amazing things with his TikTok, so I will make sure to link his TikTok account down in the video description below so you can go give him a follow. So Jimmy posted this video 24 hours ago from the time I am filming this, and his video has already amassed 1.2 million views on TikTok in 24 hours. And there is good reason for this, because the things that he is saying out loud are the things that people have been quietly concerned about. So I'm going to watch with you guys and we're going to see exactly what Jimmy is saying about these Walmart-owned Vizio TVs and why we should be concerned. Then we are going to dissect it piece by piece and find out what information is legit and what information could just be scare tactics. And then afterwards, we're going to really dissect the information and find out what exactly we should all be so worried about.
Did you realize that this TV right here is a Walmart tracking device to track you at home? Walmart bought Vizio Television. When they did that, they acquired millions of people's data. And more importantly than just the TV itself, they acquired the data system. They bought SmartCast and the data advertising platform that was owned by Vizio. So here's how it works. You pay $598 for the TV, you get it home, you unbox it, you plug it in, and you realize you can't operate it without a Walmart account. Actually, it says right here that a Vizio account is required for smart TV. And that's more than deceptive labeling. That's a straight up lie.
You'll be immediately redirected to set up a Walmart account.
And here's the sinister part. Like I said before, it wasn't about buying the physical TVs. It was about buying SmartCast. Any Vizio televisions that have been manufactured in 2026 require a Walmart account. And look at the deceptive pricing scheme. $238 for the TCL 50-inch and $178 for the Vizio. SmartCast is the operating system that lives inside the TV. It runs all your apps like Netflix and YouTube. It controls your home screen. And most importantly, the ad data system. What it does is detect what you're watching, even from cable boxes, game consoles, or DVDs, and your cell phone connected to the Walmart app. Now they will tie in what you and your family watch, search, and buy to relentlessly market you into their store. Even more Orwellian than that, linking your TV to your purchases to your location. Now you are a probable target for personal product pricing adjustments set according to your needs or desperation. This is called dynamic pricing, based on your personal data. And the fact that a giant corporation like Walmart has laid the foundation for a deceptive controlling system just like this should have us all outraged. Does it?
That's a really big question. Does it? So let's break this down. First, I want to talk about the cost of the TV, right? We clearly saw that a TCL TV was way more than the cost of a Vizio. Is that just a tactic to get people to buy the Vizio TVs over the TCLs so that they can make up that money later by enticing people to buy products and making money off of them? I think there might be some legitimacy to that. Now, different brands do sell for different prices. Since Walmart has officially bought Vizio, they might have a lower cost to acquire the Vizio TVs, which could very well be why the price is so much cheaper. Or it could be a tactic to get more Vizio TVs into people's houses. There's really no way to say for sure, but does really make you think, doesn't it? So first, we're going to separate fact from hysteria, because this entire situation has a lot of people concerned about privacy, and they have every right to be. So I want to break this down. So Walmart officially bought Vizio because Vizio already had a built-in advertising and smart TV ecosystem. That is the important part. The TV itself is no longer the main product. You are the main product. Your attention, your habits, your viewing data, your shopping behavior. That is where the real money is now. And that is why so many people are becoming uncomfortable. Because newer Vizio systems now connected to Walmart now encourage and in some ways require users to sign into their Walmart account to access smart TV features. So now not necessarily the entire television. You can still use HDMI devices, gaming systems, cable boxes, and antennas. But if you want to use those smart built-in features like streaming apps, downloads, and software services, that is where the Walmart ecosystem is showing up. And people started immediately asking, wait a minute, why does my TV need my retail account? And that's a fair question. And here's where it gets really interesting, because Walmart and Vizio openly admit that viewing data can be used for advertising and personalization. This is where something called ACR comes in, automatic content recognition. It sounds fake and dystopian because it is dystopian. Basically, your TV can analyze what you're watching, sometimes even from external devices. So theoretically, what shows you're watching, how long you watch, what ads you skip, what genres you like, and what products you seem to be the most interested in. And all of that can become very valuable marketing data. And when you combine that with Walmart's shopping ecosystem, people start imagining, did my TV just snitch on me for watching baking videos? Because now Walmart seems to think that I need 14 pounds of flour and a brand new KitchenAid mixer. And honestly, this is the direction that advertising has been heading for years. This isn't just Walmart, okay? They're just one of the big dogs doing it first. Roku does it, Samsung does it, LG does it, and Amazon definitely does it. But Walmart buying Vizio made people notice it in a much bigger way, because now it feels less like smart TV recommendations. It's more like a retail surveillance matrix. And Vizio's history makes it just a little bit worse, because there is a history of privacy complaints. Years ago, Vizio literally got in trouble with the FTC, and that was over TV viewing data collection issues. So now when people hear, oh, Walmart owns this TV and now wants account integration, they immediately start connecting the dots. And once trust has been damaged, people just automatically assume the worst. Now suddenly, every single software update feels suspicious. Every login screen feels invasive, and every personalized recommendation feels like your TV has become an undercover marketing informant. And honestly, this entire situation points to a much, much bigger problem. People are realizing that smart devices aren't just products anymore. They are data collecting machines. Your TV, your phone, your car, your refrigerator, your apps, and all of your streaming platforms. All of these want your behavior, your preferences, your habits, and your attention, because the data is more valuable than the hardware itself. That is the real story here. And I think what's really upsetting people is that you can't just buy something and own it anymore. Everything now comes with accounts, some form of tracking, terms of service, data collection, targeted advertising, and software systems that are designed to keep monetizing you forever. People miss the days when a television was just a television. You plugged it in, it worked. Nobody needed your email address to watch SpongeBob. And in my opinion, Walmart doing this is just one step closer to further integrating you into their dynamic pricing system. Dynamic pricing is not new on my channel. I have a video that I just did not too long ago about dynamic pricing and Walmart putting digital price tags in their locations. I will link that video up here in the iCards and also down in the video description so that you can go watch it if you missed it. But basically, there is this entire idea that being able to use digital price tags means that they can customize prices per customer based on their spending habits. And having you logged into your Walmart account while you watch TV, providing them even more data, is just putting you deeper and deeper into their dynamic pricing endgame. So let me know exactly what you think. Are people overreacting to the Walmart Vizio controversy? Or is this exactly the kind of creepy corporate tracking behavior that we should be worried about before every appliance in our house starts becoming an advertising machine? Because personally, the fact that we even have to ask whether or not our TV is building a consumer profile on us, it feels insane. And the wildest part of all this is that it's not the future, it's the present. So let me know your thoughts.
Hey, that was a different one there. So I got my last long one is 30 minutes, Nick Shirley. Then I got about 8 short ones to end the show with.
Sensitivities? Let's go to... What percentage of people do you think are suffering here in Cuba?
La mayoría. La mayoría.
What's your thoughts on communism? ¿Qué piensas de comunismo?
De lo más malo que ha existido en la vida es el comunismo. Porque realmente ninguno es comunista.
None of the gas stations are even in operation right now because there's quite literally no gas.
And we stand out like sore thumbs here, so they're wondering why we're here with cameras, interviewing people. They want to know what's happening and what people are saying. That's why people are not talking to us much.
They're asking why are we trying to leave the hotel early. Cuba right now is facing one of the largest humanitarian crises in the world. Cuba's government is a one-party communist-ruled country, and they are facing massive food shortages, daily blackouts, and a lack of medicine. And right now, a U.S. blockade is restricting oil and gas from coming inside of the country. With communism and socialism on the rise in the West, I wanted to see what life in communism is really like firsthand, as Cuba has been living underneath communism for over 60 years. Upon arrival, I completed all required documents and had received a visa for journalistic activity. However, once I landed, all my camera gear was seized, and within 24 hours, I was planning my escape out of Cuba after their intelligence followed me all day and a 2-star general came searching for me at the hotel. Now let's go see the reality of Cuba and eventually plan our escape out of Cuba. Where are the people at? ¿Dónde está la gente? No hay nadie aquí en la calle, no hay nadie aquí en estas casas. ¿Dónde está la gente?
The problem is that there's no gasoline. It's not easy to move. Anyway, we have a lot of limitations.
None of the gas stations are even in operation right now because there's quite literally no gas. When the United States captured Maduro, their main supplier of gas and oil was shut off. So the country right now has hardly any gas. And if you do want to get gas, you have to wait in a line from the government. The guy that we're in our taxi with right now, he said his position to get gas is $1,200 in line, and gas from the government costs around $1. But gas, if you were to buy it on the black market, costs $10 per liter. That's $40 per gallon if you're to buy gas here in Cuba. Before they captured Maduro, was there gasoline in the gas stations?
Always. It was easy. Nowadays it's really bad, but it was easy to get gasoline.
And for you,
every day you can go to the gasoline station and buy it normally. It was normal, but nowadays it's really bad.
¿Y cómo está sobreviviendo la gente aquí en Cuba?
Just imagine the reality of it. With 1,000 sacrifices and 1,000 daily struggles, the average Cuban citizen is the one really going through absolute hell here in this country.
It's so interesting being here in Cuba because everything is just like empty. It's almost very like North Korea-like when you come into a massive plaza and there's not even cars. Listen, right now you can't even hear a car in sight. And they have all this other portraits of people and past leaders of Cuba, yet there's hardly anyone even here. It's very strange here. They're saying that this is even more quiet than during COVID, during the pandemic. Less people are even leaving the streets than during the pandemic. That's how bad the crisis is right now. And the Cuban people simply just don't have money, and they also just do not have the resources like gasoline to be able to go out and continue their normal lives right now. We headed to a nearby hospital, and from this moment on, we noticed we were being followed by Cuban police and their intelligence. After the word got out, I was asking people about communism. Inside of a communist country, there's no such thing as freedom of speech or freedom of the press. In fact, if you speak out against the current regime or against communism, your neighbor can then report you to an area inside of the neighborhood where the government or the police will then come after you, and you have the risk of being imprisoned for speaking out against the regime. And what's the reality of living inside of communism? ¿Qué es la realidad de vivir en comunismo?
Son presidentes todos, son jefes todos.
El gobierno.
De hecho, sí. Así que funciona.
Hay mucha gente que está muriendo por el comunismo.
Por eso mismo, porque no hay pastillas, no hay nada para darle a la gente.
And what would be your last message to the people about living life in communism?
Bueno, el último mensaje que daré es que lo más malo que hay aquí en Cuba es el comunismo, que viven todos en comunismo. Eso es lo más malo que hay aquí en Cuba ahora mismo, el comunismo.
¿Y qué piensa ahora de su propio presidente Canal?
Bueno, yo pienso que no tiene la capacidad para ser presidente, porque nos estamos muriendo de hambre. Si no trabajamos, nos morimos de hambre.
And do you believe that it's the responsibility of the government to give food to the people? ¿Crees que es la responsabilidad del gobierno para dar comida a la gente?
Sí. Porque son los jefes, tienen que abastecer al pueblo.
¿Qué piensa de lo que está haciendo Donald Trump con el aceite y con la gasolina, como no está dejando gasolina para entrar? See, like people are very scared to answer and even give questions and responses here because of communism. And because when you say communism, when they say that they control the food or they control the jobs, they also control the freedom of press here. So a lot of people aren't used to talking on camera. And ¿qué piensa eso de
que se cinga Díaz Canel? Que se cinga Díaz Canel.
Security had noticed that two random individuals had appeared while we were doing these interviews, and they decided it was time to leave. And what happened while we were conducting some of those interviews?
Right now, while we were finishing one of the interviews, some undercover cops, you could just tell they're undercover cops. They came out of nowhere. They got on better used phones than the average person here, and they were right away communicating with each other, and they were trying to corner us out. So that's why we had to get out of there.
So you do have government spies going around making sure that certain things aren't said.
Of course, and we stand out like sore thumbs here. So they're wondering why we're here with cameras, interviewing people. They want to know what's happening and what people are saying. That's why people are not talking to us much.
That's also why you don't ever see any videos come out of Cuba.
That's 100% why you don't see videos come out of Cuba. It's very limited, the videos that you see come out of Cuba, because they control everything.
We headed into downtown Havana with the hopes that we'd shake off the two spies that were telling us. And I want you to notice the pure decay here. The streets and the buildings look like they're about to fall apart, and this is due to 50 years of no innovation inside of a communist country. We then went into one of the local markets to exchange some cash for some Cuban pesos.
And here in Cuba, their inflation has hit really hard here, so their peso does not really go that far, so the dollar does go a lot farther here. In fact, the average salary of someone here for the month is $14 USD. So right now we're exchanging here on the streets of Cuba, and you get a lot better price for your dollar versus if you were to do it at the airport here in Cuba. How would you say life is here in Cuba?
La situación está mala.
What do you think is going to happen with the future of Cuba?
Ustedes que vengan para acá.
¿Crees que los Estados Unidos van a tomar Cuba?
Claro que sí. Claro, tú pueden para acá.
¿Y te gustaría que los Estados Unidos toman Cuba?
Claro que sí.
¿Y por qué?
Porque que vengan, esto aquí está malo. Claro, para trabajar con ustedes.
What's your opinion about communism?
El comunismo es malo.
And why is it bad? ¿Por qué está mal?
Porque está malo, no hay comida aquí.
¿Qué fue el cambio después de Maduro fue capturado?
No me ataques.
Yeah, they can't talk about it. It's kind of interesting asking about these political situations that you could talk about in the United States completely freely, but a lot of people are timid, and you have to respect that because you don't want to put them in a bad situation. But people are very timid to talk about stuff politically here in the streets of Cuba. I mean, look at this one. You have coming down the street right here. This is just it.
You installed this?
Even had a few screws left over.
If it's important, it's not worth compromising. That's why with Farmers, you can get quality and savings.
We are farmers. Bum, 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 bum.
A gift that does it all.
We can arrange that.
Normal here in Cuba. It's kind of weird. The reason for the old car here in Cuba is because in 1959 is when communism took effect, and the United States then later put an embargo on Cuba, which stopped new companies from working with Cuba. So all they had left was cars from the 1950s and earlier. Innovation tends not to take place in communism because there's no incentive for an entrepreneur to go out and create something because he'll receive no benefit because the state or the country, the government controls what goes in and out and also how much money you take from that underneath communism. So it completely kills entrepreneurship, which then kills innovation, and then you come up with a stagnant society like this one here in Cuba, where they have not developed any much further than since around the 1950s. All these buildings here are still standing from the 1950s, but they have not innovated or there's nothing new here inside of this country. It's actually kind of sad to see.
This man right here will explain just how dangerous it is to speak out against communism inside of a communist country.
How's life in communism? ¿Qué es la realidad? What's the reality of it?
El comunismo. Ya. Esa parte ahí no te puedo contestar esa parte porque no sé qué decirte.
La gente aquí, the people here, no pueden hablar sobre el comunismo o hablar en contra del gobierno.
Aquí tú hablas en contra del comunismo y te meten preso. Te desaparecen. Lo que pasa es que la gente tiene miedo a hablar, ¿me entiendes? Pero aquí tú hablas y te desapareces.
So if you speak bad about communism here in Cuba, you'll be taken to prison and you'll just disappear.
Te pueden meter días preso, ¿me entiendes? Te dan golpe y todo.
¿Es imposible para hablar sobre comunismo?
No tengo nada que decir.
Okay. Yeah, this is what's super interesting about talking about communism. They cannot speak bad about communism here inside of Cuba.
And because of the lack of oil inside the country, there's constant blackouts that are taking place each and every single day inside of Cuba. It's even affecting the education of the children. In fact, right now, inside of Cuba, the main university, the university that Fidel Castro attended, is currently shut down. And so right now, the children and the university students of Cuba are having a hard time getting education.
This is the National University of Cuba. I mean, this is a huge stadium. They have tons of seats, a track, and a football pitch, but it's all just has not been maintained whatsoever. Just the vents are all rusting and eroding. ¿Qué tal la vida aquí en Cuba? How's life here in Cuba?
Más o menos, no tan bien. Hay problemas de transporte y eso, pero...
What would you say the biggest problem is? ¿Qué diría que es el problema más grande para un joven?
El problema grande que hay en Cuba aquí es la luz.
La luz. ¿Cuántas veces al día se cortan la luz? How many times a day do they cut out the lights?
Casi todos los días, de cualquier hora. Cualquier hora.
Yeah, how do you live through that as a young child? ¿Cómo se vive eso mientras que está un joven?
No muy bien. El tema de la luz, no, además del estudio y todo. Muy bien.
So the lights are affecting your entire life. Entonces, los luces están afectando toda tu vida.
Cuando viene, a veces no viene más hasta por la mañana, lo quitan general en Cuba entera. Y bueno.
We left the university and did the most touristy thing we could do, and that was to hop into a 1950 Chevrolet and tour the city of Havana with one of the local guides. We did this in the hopes that we would have less people following us. However, it just brought even more attention to us when we got back to the hotel. And how come here you guys still use old cars from the 1950s?
Porque estos son coches tradicionales antes del triunfo de la revolución. Coches del 50, del 59 y quedó de patrimonio de la humanidad y trabajamos para una agencia del gobierno.
So you guys work for the government still?
The government. Trabajamos para el gobierno.
And this is kind of a random question, but do you know what a Tesla is? ¿Sabe qué es una Tesla?
No.
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 ¿Nunca he escuchado de un auto que se llama un Tesla?
No.
No. BMW?
Tampoco.
Right now on Polymarket, there's a 45% chance that there's a clash between the U.S. military and the Cuban military. Do you think there will be a clash with the two militaries in 2026?
Bueno, eso es lo que pensamos muchos cubanos. Eso es lo que pensamos muchos cubanos porque queremos la mejoría de nuestro país. Para los niños en las escuelas, los hospitales, las casas, los barrios humildes, que tengan una mejoría, ¿me entiendes?
So do you think it would be good if there was some intervention between the two militaries?
Sí, pienso que sí. Pienso que sí. Nosotros lo que queremos es tener la tranquilidad.
¿Qué piensa pasaría? What do you think would happen in that war?
Bueno, no pienso que sea una guerra en total. Pienso que sea una mejoría para el pueblo. Para el pueblo, que es lo que queremos, una mejoría.
Because what's happened here in Cuba has not been good for the general public.
No está pasando bien. No está pasando, no la estamos pasando bien. No es normal que tengamos muchos problemas económicos.
And what do the people of Cuba think about Donald Trump and Marco Rubio?
Bueno, no te puedo decir exactamente qué piensan las personas porque cada cual tiene sus distintos pensamientos. Pero bueno, si es para bien para el pueblo y para nosotros los cubanos, que para bien sea.
You think it's necessary for change to happen here in Cuba? ¿Cree que es necesario que hay cambios aquí?
Sí, pienso que sí. Pienso que sí, muchos años, no sé, y todo el pueblo quiere que cambie la cosa.
And what would you say the reality of communism is?
Bueno, la realidad del comunismo, unos sí, otros no. Y pienso que el comunismo sea todos iguales. No unos sí y otros no. Tiene que ser todo parejo.
And it's not like that. No, es así.
Y no es así.
Right now, they say 7 out of 10 people here in Cuba are going without their necessary meals here. Would you say that's true?
Es real, es real. Ahora mismo tenemos muchos problemas con el alimento. El aceite, el arroz, los frijoles, la carne, el pollo. Muchos problemas. Todo se está yendo para las pymes. Y todo el mundo no tiene la misma posibilidad de presupuesto para poder comprar los alimentos.
And was this happening before the blockade, or is this just now happening?
Sí, sí.
Join Planet Fitness for $1 down, $15 a month, and get free massage amenities all month long. Deal ends May 15th.
Tonight's not just another night. You've got the all-new Caesars Palace online casino.
Pienso que sí.
So it's not
Okay,
new.
we're halfway, guys.
No es nuevo, no es
Few
nuevo.
minutes.
For how many years have the people of Cuba been suffering?
Bueno, pienso que hace rato ya, pienso que hace tiempo ya que el pueblo está sufriendo por el tema del alimento y muchas cosas que el pueblo sufre, que no se expresa porque tenemos miedo de la libertad de expresión. Porque algunas veces podemos expresar algo que no nos puedan entender y nos perjudica, ¿me entiendes? Por eso es que hay muchas personas que no hablan.
And that's something I have noticed when we have been talking to people is a lot of people are scared to talk about the current situation here in Cuba because of communism, essentially.
Hay muchas personas que no quieren expresar lo que sienten porque tienen miedo a cualquier tipo de situación, a que puedan ir presos, a que le puedan quitar las casas, a muchas cosas como ha pasado. Que hay personas que han expresado lo que sienten y han tenido problemas con el gobierno.
And how much does it cost right now for gas?
Ahora tenemos $10 un litro de gasolina y la estamos comprando en mercado negro.
And how much?
Ahora mira, no hay gasolina en ningún cupé. Por eso que ha subido los impuestos y ha subido todo por el tema del petróleo y la gasolina.
What be your message to all the people in the world about what's actually happening here in Cuba?
Queremos una mejoría, necesitamos una mejoría para que el pueblo esté bien.
And this is where things began to get really weird. As we arrived back to the hotel, this man began following us. He was all alone and he kept moving as we moved. Security noticed him telling us We played it cool and left the hotel a few hours later, and after one interview on the street, we caught the web of spies following and monitoring everything I was doing as this man exposed the raw reality of Cuba unfiltered. What happens at nighttime here in Cuba? ¿Qué pasa aquí en la noche?
En la noche tú la ves vacía, que no hay nada. No hay nada.
There's nothing.
No hay diversión, no hay nada, no hay luz, no hay agua, no hay nada. No hay comida, no hay medicamentos, no hay nada. Yo no sé hasta cuándo vamos a seguir así.
Would you like the United States to come in and have military intervention here?
Claro, para salir de esta situación. Por supuesto. Para salir de esta historia.
What is the situation right now?
Que no hay nada. No tenemos luz, no tenemos comida, no tenemos medicamentos, no tenemos la primera necesidad de un hospital. No hay nada, no tenemos nada. No hay un ser humano que pueda vivir así. Es demasiado.
And what would be your message to the rest of the world about the realities of what's happening here in Cuba? ¿Cuál sería su mensaje a todo el mundo de la realidad de lo que está pasando aquí en Cuba?
Te estoy diciendo cuál es la verdad. El que te diga algo que no sea lo que yo te estoy diciendo es porque tiene miedo. Pero es lo que está pasando todo el mundo. Mira esa vieja, mira. ¿Dónde está? Con el perro pidiendo comida. Mírala ahí. A todo el mundo. Que no tiene acá. Mírala ahí. Mira. Ven, mira ahí, pregúntale ahí.
Hola, señora.
Explícale todo lo que tú estás pasando.
No, pero no sin video.
Sí, la gente no quiere. The people do not want
Pero
video.
ese es el problema, que la gente no quiere video. Porque la meten presa. Ese es el problema. El problema es que nos meten presos cuando salgan por video. Si ahora tú publicas ese video, si tú publicas ese video, yo voy preso.
Vamos preso.
Preso. Vamos por eso.
What's your thoughts on communism? ¿Qué piensa de comunismo?
Lo más malo que ha existido en la vida. De lo más malo que ha existido en la vida ha sido el comunismo. Porque realmente ninguno es comunista.
What do you mean by that?
Lo que hacen es enriquecerse y explotar al pueblo. Es lo único que hacen.
¿Qué significa eso para ti? Como no hay ninguna comunista. Como que
No. Porque no hay. Eso no existe. El comunismo es la igualdad del hombre por el hombre. Aquí eso no existe. Aquí eso no existe. Todos ellos son los que tienen todo. Ellos tienen luz, ellos tienen los mejores carros del año pisteando, ellos tienen petróleo, ellos tienen gasolina, tienen todo. Y el pueblo no tiene nada. Y las mayores bipimis son de ellos.
¿Y por qué piensa que gente defiende el comunismo cuando hemos visto que no funciona?
No funciona. El que defiende el comunismo nada más que tiene que ser la familia Castro o alguien que le tenga miedo o alguien que vive del gobierno, que se enriquece de esa dictadura.
And right now in the United States, a lot of people think that communism and socialism is the way to go. What would be your message to them? Because they think capitalism has failed them. Mucha gente en los Estados Unidos ahora creen que comunismo y socialismo es la manera de donde deberíamos ir.
No.
Porque,
eso es lo peor.
¿Qué sería su mensaje a ellos?
Lo peor que existieran, lo peor que tú puedas hacer en la vida es pasar al socialismo, al comunismo, porque es la gran mierda. No existe el que te vea la miseria, a la obstinación, al hambre, a la hostigación, a todo. Fíjate que nada de lo que tú puedas, nada del salario, nada más te alcanza para comprar una botella de aceite. ¿Cómo tú crees que tú puedes vivir así? ¿Cómo tú puedes vivir con una libreta de razonamiento que nada más que te dan 3 libras de azúcar y una de sal? Y ya cada 15, cada 4, 6 meses, 7 años, te dan una posta de pollo o un huevo. El huevo no viene hace un año. Hace un año que no viene el huevo.
Imagínate. Desde que no ha tomado un huevo.
El huevo tienes que comprarlo. El huevo tienes que comprarlo por la calle en las bipimis. Pero el Estado, la libreta, ya no te vienen nada. Yo no sé qué significa la libreta, porque ya no viene nada. La remesa que ustedes dan, la ayuda, nos las venden a nosotros después. La ayuda nunca viene al pueblo. Lo que tú traes nunca viene al pueblo. Esa gente que viene, que están trayendo toda esa ayuda, esa ayuda tú no la ves. Yo no sé dónde ellos la entregan, pero esa ayuda tú no la ves.
¿Y qué sería su mensaje a Donald Trump y Marco Rubio?
Donald Trump y Marco Rubio, estoy esperando por ustedes, por favor, para ver si podemos vivir como personas, vivir como ser humano, tener las primeras necesidades como vive un ser humano.
porque estamos viviendo peor que los animales. Peor que los animales estamos viviendo.
¿Cree que sería bueno que los Estados Unidos ayudan?
Claro, por supuesto. Todo el mundo está esperando la intervención. La intervención, porque la gente piensa que la intervención que van a matar a la gente, no. Ya ellos saben los puntos claves, que saben que hay el comité central, que hay el punto cero, que sabe, todo el mundo sabe dónde están los casos. Ellos saben dónde están los casos.
¿Qué es un buen sueldo aquí en Cuba?
Sparkling Ice Flavor Lab, Stella speaking.
How do you come up with these delicious flavor combos?
Oh, your parents never gave you the talk.
Fíjate. Déjame tirar foto.
Ahí está.
¿Estás tirando foto?
Wow.
Ahí.
And film that lady, get a shot of her. Wow. And la última pregunta. This lady had spawned out of nowhere and began spying on us. For instance, look at it. She comes into frame right here, and then she hides behind the lamppost, and then all of a sudden she starts filming us. And then when she goes to the other side of the lamppost, she then begins to act like she's on a phone call. However, she continues to point her camera towards our direction. The guy I'm interviewing then notices that she's filming us. He goes and confronts her, and she runs to the other side of the street. She then turns the corner, and my security guard follows her to see where she goes. And who does she meet up with? She meets up with the man who was following us inside of the hotel. And after we had confirmed that we were being followed by Cuban intelligence and their spies were spying on us, we hurried back up to our hotel room and made a plan to escape Cuba.
She makes her way through the woods to him, and then he goes, no, like saying, don't sit here. Boom, sits there. So they're together, 100%. Come back to the hotel, buddy's there. They're 100% watching us. Option 2 is, there's no more flights out today. They're 100% on.
So you think we gotta leave tomorrow morning?
If we're gonna deal with the pressure at one point, which I think we're going to anyways, we do it trying to leave early at the airport where there's public eyes. We're in Cuba, we're in Comitown. So this is a different ballgame for all of us.
Think we can get a boat tonight?
I was thinking about making a call to see if we were to do that, how far would the U.S. Coast Guard need us to be? They're 1,000%. So really, the advantage is
This is literally the North Korea of Latin America, and we have spies on us.
they're 100%. 100%. We're not paranoid. I'm 100% convinced. But if we grab our bags right now, we make an escape, they're going to say, hey, they just took off. They're going to shut this whole bitch down looking for us.
And to make things even worse, Cuba was having their May Day march just outside our hotel in the morning. So all around the hotel, military and Cuba government was surrounding the hotel, protecting the streets for the march the next morning. My thoughts. So tomorrow they're going to have the march for the May 1st march.
Yep.
It's a big march. So it starts at 6. They're either going to come for us by 3 or 4.
Facts.
So we have to be out of here by then.
Yes.
And whether that's us bouncing around the city in a pair of 2 and one off on their own, and maybe I'll be back up. We have to distract them enough by the time it's our time to board on the airport at 8 a.m. They're too occupied doing this march thing. We took a bit of a risky move and headed down to the lobby to act as if we had no idea they were spying on us and act very casual. So security puffed on some Cuban cigars. I drank some water. Security chatted up with some of the people working at the hotel. And then we went back upstairs and barricaded ourselves into the hotel room for the night. And then at 4 a.m., we made our attempt to escape the hotel. All right, 4 a.m. now. We're in the elevator. We're heading down to the bottom lobby. And we're making our way out. Right now, the people are gathering out on the streets. We have one of the security guards down the bottom, making sure that it's clear for us to walk out of the lobby right now. And now we're heading out, getting on a taxi, and making our way to the airport as fast as possible. One of the security guards was stopped by someone at the hotel as she asked why we are leaving the hotel early, and she would not let us leave. They were stalling for some reason. And then when we did try to make it out to go get a taxi, the guy barely let us out the door. And then when we got out to get a taxi, they called us back in. We're running into some complications here, just trying to get out. They're asking why we're trying to leave the hotel early.
Immigration police.
And they took us into the back room of the hotel, and we had a meeting with a 2-star general who interrogated us for 10 to 15 minutes about why we're trying to leave Cuba, what was our purpose of our travels, what kind of questions we were asking the people on the streets, what kind of footage we got. The general then said we could go, and he said they would get us a taxi to the airport. However, we waited for 5 minutes and there was no taxi. We thought we were about to get set up, so we left the hotel and set off on foot to escape Cuba. As soon as we made it down to the hotel lobby, they had their guys down there. We had immigration, and they brought us in for an interview. Gabe, so what's the current circumstances that we got going on right now in Cuba? We're trying to find a taxi. We've left the hotel. We're a few miles out now. No taxis are anywhere. How are we getting out of Cuba?
So, number one, second we got downstairs, we had, what you want to call their undercover police, walking through the lobby, just playing it cool, acting like there's nothing. Once you and I came downstairs and you guys made your way out to the front, 2-star general came out of nowhere and he asked as politely as possible, but with firm action, like, hey, I need to sit down. We need to talk to you guys. And then he realized that he was pressing, so he's like, hey, could you just bring in your friend so we could talk? And I was like, oh, what's going on? And he goes, I would want to talk inside. That's when he came outside to the outside lobby. I was trying to just engage the conversation there, and he said, I would like to talk inside. We had our conversation. Now they let us leave, and now we're on foot by the university and the hospital, and we got about another 1.5 miles to the airport, 2 miles. So we're on foot. Hopefully we can get a taxi at some point if we don't get squeezed in before.
And there's no taxis out right now. That's a bit of a problem right now. The streets are empty.
Empty, and everybody's going the opposite direction.
By the grace of God, we found one taxi driver in all of Havana who agreed to take us to the airport. The only problem, it's a tricycle that only goes 10 miles per hour.
All right, we got our taxi. All right, so our taxi to the airport. Not the taxi I thought we were gonna get into to make it to the airport. This is our taxi we have right now. It's the only option we had available. We're gonna try to find another car taxi because this is taking too long to get to the airport, and our flight's gonna leave without us. And right now we currently have the entire government of Cuba onto us, knowing that we're gonna leave the country.
We are gardeners.
This is really good. Fun video here, guys.
Toodaloo, tall tequila.
It's Short King Week, and Espolón Tequila is
Celebrating all the reasons being short.
Now, we weren't able to get another taxi. We've been in this taxi for the past hour or so. Suns came up, finally made it to the airport, and now this is our last stretch in order to get out of Cuba. They might press us one more time inside the airport, so we don't know exactly. We're not out of here for certain, for good. They might make one last push at the airport. They could either ask us some more questions or not let us board our flight. They do have all my camera gear inside the airport right now, so I have to get all of that. And everyone's on the know that we're trying to leave Cuba right now. We'll see if they let us board our commercial flight.
We made it to the airport, and now I had to go get my camera gear that they had seized just 24 hours before. They questioned me for another 30 minutes. They then took one of my security guards, questioned him as well, and then they ended up letting us get onto our
Oh my gosh. Muchas gracias. Gracias. Oh, we're making it on the plane right now. I've never been so happy to make it onto a plane.
I got pulled up by 2 guys. They wanted to do the smooth approach, like, hey, what's going on? Why are you guys here? Why are you guys leaving so soon? You guys got here yesterday. After going back and forth, and I was done with the small talk already. I was like, bro, if something's going to happen, let it happen already. And he's like, I'm like, listen, we had a 2-star general at our hotel at 5 a.m. You guys are here now. We were pressed all day yesterday. What's up? And he's like, even the president knows that you guys are here.
The president of Communist Cuba knew that we were here.
He knows that we were here. Facts. They know. They've been watching us all day. They know that we're here. So
you might not see 3 more happier men in the world right now.
Feels like Christmas morning. Oh, yeah.
Made it out. Oh my gosh.
Yep, that was an important one, guys. Make sure you guys watch. Can you make sure, Kay, if you can drop Nick's channel link in chat so everybody can go sub to Nick Shirley? Thanks. All right, we're going to end it with about 5 or so short ones.
Zulu, May 8th,
3
2026.
minutes.
Precedence
4
is
minutes.
routine. Info Office 2200. Bottom line up front. United Arab Emirates conducts strikes in Iran. Iranian retaliation strikes target Dubai and shipping in the Strait. United States increases targeting and interdiction operations in the Gulf of Oman. Major fire reported at refinery in Louisiana. Beginning with international events in the Middle East overnight, multiple targeting efforts took place in the Strait of Hormuz. The United Arab Emirates conducted multiple airstrikes in Iran, targeting facilities on Qeshm Island as well as the port of Bandar Abbas. This attack was reportedly conducted in conjunction with the United States or with some U.S. support and resulted in Iranian drone attacks on the UAE as several drone and missile attacks were reported in Dubai. Officials did not state how many munitions hit their targets. However, 3 moderate injuries were reported on the ground in the UAE as a result of the first wave of attacks. As the fighting continued throughout the night, the UAE traded bombs and missiles with Iran for a few hours, and several merchant ships in the strait were also struck. American warships struck a total of 3 merchant vessels throughout the region, possibly to include in the strait itself, overnight, all of which were empty tanker vessels attempting to run the American blockade to unload a cargo of oil from Iranian ports. Similarly, the Iranians also reportedly hit several merchant vessels, though which ones remain unknown at the moment. After the shooting subsided in the early hours of this morning, the Iranians seized a tanker in the Gulf of Oman. The merchant tanker Ocean Koi was boarded by the IRGCN for allegedly, quote, taking advantage of regional conditions to damage and disrupt Iran's oil exports and the interests of the Iranian nation. Analysts comment. It's not clear as to why this vessel was boarded, as this is one of Iran's own shadow tankers, which has been on the sanctions list for many years, and has previously helped export Iran's oil in violation of international sanctions. Her most recent name is the Jen Li, and last night she was inbound to the Persian Gulf to take on a cargo of Iranian oil at Iran's own ports. At the moment, the best guess is that the Iranians might have discovered that the oil was going to an unauthorized end customer and thus conducted the boarding. However, it's also possible that during the events of the night, the Iranians needed to assert dominance, so they took the only ship that was within their reach, which happens to be one of their own. On the home front in Louisiana, this afternoon a major fire was reported at the PBF Chalmette refinery. The cause of the fire has not been released, and as of this report, firefighters are attempting to bring the fire under control. This facility is a comparatively smaller refinery that produces almost 200,000 barrels of oil per day, and in 2021, $550 million was invested in this facility to convert an older unit to produce diesel. Analysts comment. Fires at refineries are more common than one might think, but this is the second fire at a refinery in the same area in a week's time. A few miles to the west, Shell reported a fire at their Norco facility last week, which was the result of a gas leak. Analyst comments for this wire. At this point, it's hard to argue that the ceasefire is still in effect in the Middle East, but that definition probably doesn't matter at this point. Over the past 48 hours, multiple offensive actions have taken place throughout the region. Nevertheless, as Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff General Kane said yesterday, these attacks are, quote, below the threshold for the United States to consider the ceasefire violated. The effect of this policy is twofold. For one, gas prices don't spike by admitting the war is back on, and two, Oman and the UAE, the nations getting hit by the Iranians, are rather slighted by attacks on their homeland and not being considered serious enough to warrant U.S. intervention. From the perspective of the emirs, their entire motivation for siding with the U.S. and allowing the use of their territory is for their own defense. Their oil terminals, the only reason for their wealth, getting hit by the Iranians, and the U.S. saying that this is not important enough for us to even acknowledge it as a ceasefire violation, much less retaliate, is not going over super well and was probably the motivating factor for the UAE conducting strikes in Iran overnight. This concludes the wire for 2300 Zulu, May 8th, 2026.
Hey, the Wire channel. I got a UFO 3-minute. Got a lot of views on it. There's no volume. Well, sorry about that one, you guys. Three minutes.
Have you heard of such a thing as no-fly zones?
Not sure
For
about
instance,
this
you
one,
can't
Flying.
fly in certain areas near the Arctic Circle or the Antarctic Circle. The reasons being is because there are lands there that we're not supposed to know about. I'll give you one example. Sir Captain George Hubert Wilkins, a contemporary of Admiral Byrd, he flew beyond Antarctica 5,000 miles, according to his records, and he said that he found there many, many lands and peoples 5,000 miles beyond Antarctica. That's just one example of an explorer who found lands that are not at all on any of our maps. They are excluded from all of our maps. That's why international pilots have such a thing as no-fly zone, because they don't want those lands to be discovered.
And as you can see here, these igloos of another civilization beyond the ice wall. You see, you wonder why they keep us away from Antarctica and the North Pole, because it's hidden lands that's beneath and across that ice wall. But pretty soon, once the ice walls melt down, then we will be able to merge into that civilization. But it's clearly, you can see structures of igloo buildings with green pastures, with green grass. And they say that Antarctica don't grow grass and don't grow trees, and it's unlivable. But the Eskimos was melanated indigenous black people. And you see across this ice wall, is so much truth that's hidden behind these walls that they don't want us to know. But if you go do your due diligence and you study and you look at the ancient maps, it'll clearly show you that there's more land behind this ice wall. You see, it's more people in this world, it's more civilizations. It's different species also, extraterrestrials as that. We have people living in the inner core of the earth. You see, this is a gateway right here where you can cross through. And at the top screen, it's showing air footage, showing how the ice wall is open right there where you can go through. But the government won't let us through that part. You know they won't. Peace, love, and light the planet Ka. Ramu the Woke One signing out. Free to God, Rashad Jamal. The revolution will be televised.
That was interesting. Okay, I got about 4 or 5 more short ones. I'm not sure about tomorrow evening, probably sometime. We haven't played him in a couple days. We're behind on him.
G. Gerner,
6
it is
minutes.
May 8th, the year of our Lord 2026. This is in response to a post Real Robert put on his site on X. This is Real Robert. My hat's off to you. This is great work. He posted this on May 7th about Wisconsin's voter registration data, etc. And he goes into quite a bit of detail. But what's interesting is that it says, I'll read it to you. Virtually every blue state has flat out refused to share voter registration data with the federal government and has even gone to court to block its release. Why is that? Because they have a legal authority to do so. Watch this. That's an organization called ERIC, Electronic Registration Information Center. A number of years ago, that was actually, I believe it was in 2000 and maybe 15. I don't know the exact date of the contracts, But Eric is owned by a gentleman named Jeff Jonas. He's a computer scientist. He put together an algorithm called entity resolution that makes it impossible, well, not impossible, but this algorithm is used to look at voter registration data in any particular state. Hang on. And you're going to like this. They clean the voter registration rolls, but they don't do the one thing that's ultimately needed to be done. It cleans it out of people who moved, people who did, etc. But it does not clean out the registration of the registrants who are illegally registered to vote, the non-citizens. Eric has contracts with 26 states and Washington, D.C. Every single one of them is a blue state. More importantly, as a credentialed member of the press, which I am, if I were to make a request, a FISA request for their data information, their voter registration data information, that state, whatever I replied to, would put out an injunction, or excuse me, Eric would put an injunction on that request, and the information would not be released to me. Eric has contracts with 26 states in Washington, D.C. They own the data. They are there to protect that data. This is a major block, a major scam of the United States, or the Americans in the United States, their trust. When you can't access the voter data, you can't fix it. Eric purposely did this to block anyone from getting that information and cleaning their voter rolls. The other 23 states are red. It's basically an even Steven right now, 50-50. The blue states represent 50% of the Marxist Democrat vote. The other 23 represent 50% of the red conservative vote. This is a violation of the public trust never seen before in U.S. history. It is beyond criminal. It is a crime of major proportions. How can I say that? How is it possible it could be a crime? Because when you cannot access, like I said, when you cannot access the voter registration data in any particular county or state, you can't fix it. The SAVE Act is kind of going past that. Voter ID will help fix it. But still, here's an interesting point. If you have a bazillion votes in a state for president, whoever, the electoral votes will still be turned over. That's why in many of these blue states, they're not going to have voter ID. They're going to let anybody vote. But also, it doesn't matter who votes. It matters who counts the votes. Who said that? I want you to look into that. I'm going to put my website where you can watch our documentaries, our 4 documentaries for free. Then I'm going to put my email down there. I want you to answer that question. Why is it important who counts the vote, and who was the first one to actually say that? It doesn't matter who votes. It matters who counts the votes. Send me an email. Who made that statement? Why is it ultimately important who counts the votes? This is the system's been gamed. Please go to Preserving America EPA.
Okay, our news guy on TikTok. I got another big clip. I got 4 more total left. Yeah, a big view on this one.
I'm pretty sure we just got them. NASA uploaded 12,000 images from the Artemis 2 mission, and a lot of them are of Earth. And this is actually Earth on its night side. The camera is adjusted to let in a bunch of light, and the Earth is illuminated by the moon. This is important, okay? I stumbled across this. A guy named Andy Saunders overlapped a bunch of the images that NASA released. Here it is, enhanced. I'm pretty sure that these are satellites. Not like satellites, because these would be the size of cities, but light bouncing off of satellites, like glares. I'm pretty sure you can watch them move. You can also see lightning in this area here, and the auroras moving. This hasn't been processed and confirmed by NASA, but I thought that that post was really cool and you guys wanted a time lapse of Earth, so there it is. It's one of the coolest things I've ever seen. If it is the glare from satellites, it would mean that we are officially a civilization that you can see off of our planet. But no, you normally can't see them because they're too small. You can't see cities really either. If there are so many, where are all the satellites in these photos of Earth? I'm pretty sure we just got them. NASA uploaded 12,000 images from the Artemis 2 mission, and a lot of them are of Earth. And this is actually Earth on its night side. The camera is adjusted to let in a bunch of light, and the Earth is illuminated by the moon. This is important, okay? I stumbled across this. A guy named Andy Saunders overlapped a bunch of the images that NASA released. Here it is, enhanced. I'm pretty sure that these are satellites. Not like satellites, because these would be the size of cities, but light bouncing off of satellites, like glares. I'm pretty sure you can watch them move. You can also see lightning in this area here, and the auroras moving. This hasn't been processed and confirmed by NASA, but I thought that that post was really cool and you guys wanted a time lapse of Earth, so there it is. It's one of the coolest things I've ever seen. If it is the glare from satellites, it would mean that we are officially a civilization that you can see off of our planet. But no, you normally can't see them because they're too small. You can't see cities really either. If there are so many, where are all the satellites in these photos of Earth? I'm pretty sure we just got them. NASA uploaded 12,000 images from the...
Okay, that was a good one. Got about 3 or so more here. So this is the one I was telling somebody about.
That she's working with foreign nations to provide oil to a country that we've sanctioned. This is obviously against U.S. interests.
In January, Trump issued an executive order threatening tariffs on any country supplying fuel to Cuba. This was this January, just a few months ago. And oil shipments from Venezuela, that's where Cuba had been getting its oil, were halted after the U.S. operations to kidnap Nicolas Maduro.
Right.
Since January, only one Russian tanker of oil has made it to Cuba.
Right.
In fact, it landed just a couple of days before I landed. And one tanker has enough oil basically for 10 to 14 days of Cuba's oil needs. So it's a very limited amount of time. Now, Russia has said they're going to send another tanker. I was in conversations with the ambassadors from Mexico and some other places, and I know other countries in Latin America are trying to figure out how to get oil there. But it is a crisis beyond imagination. Just this past Friday, on May 1st, Trump signed a broad executive order that widens sanctions and allows for new penalties similar to what we have for Iran and Russia against foreign banks and firms that are dealing with Cuba, and it also reinforces the ban on U.S. tourism. I have called these sanctions an economic bombing of the infrastructure of Cuba. It is illegal. It is against the war. We've been talking about this in Iran, obviously, to bomb the infrastructure of any country. That is against international law. This is essentially doing the same thing. It is bombing the infrastructure of Cuba with economic sanctions that essentially ensure that the infrastructure collapses.
You see, because that's what we want. That is the goal of the Trump administration. That's the goal of the State Department. And apparently you're scurrying around behind their backs, cutting deals to get oil to a sanctioned country. What are you, a spy for the bad guys? This woman may need to.
Okay, Trisha, short one there. All right, we got about 3 more. Have a good one, Finding we'll see you tomorrow evening probably. Have a good weekend. Happy Mother's Day to everybody. If I don't see you over the weekend.
I found a lot. Let's go. I spent my career at the CIA and NSA and also advised other intelligence agencies. I now have my own corporate intelligence firm. All of these opinions are my own. This analysis is my own for entertainment purposes only. September 2nd, 2025, Charlie Kirk sends out an internal memo to TPUSA saying, hey, I'm announcing Justin Strife as our COO. And with that, he's going to lead a Doge-like effort into our financials and operations. Yay. Basically an internal audit, but without setting off red flags to the rest of the company that he wanted an audit. That's how I read it anyway. 8 days later, Charlie Kirk was murdered. Within the week, Erica Kirk was announced as the CEO, and that audit and Doge-like effort never happened. But lucky for us, TPUSA is a 501c3 and their financials are public. So I went in and dove in, announced myself as the independent Doge to do the follow the money, because in my mind, if the CEO is asking for an internal audit, he thinks something is up. And so I wanted to see what was going on. This one's for Charlie Kirk.
Okay, 2 more.
Attack Iran, and I want to look at 2 past scenarios that align with this behavior that make me think that. I spent my career at the CIA and NSA. I also advised other intelligence agencies. I now have my own corporate intelligence firm. All of these opinions are my own and for entertainment purposes only. I want to talk about 2 scenarios that I've looked at that make me think that something's about to happen. So let's go through them. First, let's do Venezuela. So in August, we attacked the drug boats, like 30 some drug boats, and we even threatened military action against Venezuela. And then fast forward, Maduro and Trump talk. They're cordial. They're like, yeah, we're chill. And then we're like, you know what? We're moving up. We're messing up the shadow fleet. Okay. Then fast forward, and Maduro extends an olive branch on January 1. And Trump had all the leverage at that point, and there were a lot of people saying he can get what he wants out of this. He's going to go and meet with him. And then we go in and get Maduro. Okay. So we see escalation, chill, escalation, what seems like chill, attack. Now let's talk about what happened with Iran in June and how it aligned. So we sit here, accuse Iran of enriching their uranium for nuclear weapons. But Trump comes out and says, we are committed to solving this diplomatically, and he has multiple talks and meetings with the Iranian government. June 20th, Israel attacks Iran. They get into a back and forth shooting for, I think, like at least a few weeks, maybe 2 weeks. Trump is asked, are you going to step in? And Carolyn Levitt gets up there and says, the president has said he's going to decide in 2 weeks. He's giving himself 2 weeks to make a decision. 2 days later, we take our B-52s and drop 14 bombs on their nuclear facilities. Once we say diplomacy, ramp up. There tends to be a pattern. However, this time I just worry about the blue and white country. Just like when they attacked Iran and Trump gave them permission, I do think that we need their blessing. And so when Netanyahu said to hold off, unless he allows us to do it, that's the only thing that concerns me. We will see what happens. We will be monitoring, but just wanted to give you guys some additional analysis based on some things that I've looked at. So,
okay, that's going to wrap everything up, you guys. Another busy day of intel. A lot of things are happening. Let's stand by if we get anything big breaking news. And yep, thanks mods, Kay, Lucy, Tim, Carol, Michael, and everybody have a good Mother's Day. Good weekend. Stay safe, stay strong, keep your faith. And never give up. signing off on our Friday night show. Till tomorrow evening sometime. Unless something happens. Have a good one, you guys.